गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So now begins the chapter 2, where more clarity. Initially in the first chapter, till what we did till now, the teacher was explaining the reality with reference to the conditionings that were there. What were the conditionings? The five senses, the mind and the intellect. And now he goes on to say, Yadi manyase suvedeti dabhramevapi nunam tvam vetta brahmano rupam Yadasya tam yadasya deveshvatanu mimamsyameva te manye viditam. He says the preceptor here hastens to warn his disciple. Warning. If you think I knew well the reality, if this idea has come to your mind, that I got it, that yes, it has happened. Understand, it is certainly but little. The form of the Brahman you have known is also the form of the Deva. Therefore, I think that what thou thinkest is still to be ascertained. If you think that you have known well the Brahman that was indicated in the last 4 or 5 classes, and if you have come to this conclusion, I understood, then you are not understood. Because this knowing Brahman is not through a thought. It is impossible. And therefore here, the warning is probably because the Guru could see in the face of the disciple a glow of satisfaction and self-confidence and pride at the understanding. The teacher reads the face and gives the timely warning. If you think that you know the Atman well, you indeed are a fool. I have said that the Atman is the eye of the eye. That means the eye cannot see it, the speech cannot speak about it, the mind cannot think it, the intellect cannot understand it. So who is saying that I have understood it, or who is saying that I have known it well? The mind. Therefore, you have not known it. But because these statements in the last chapter, if you conclude that you have realized Atman, you are sadly mistaken. So here, see, yesterday we went up into the forest. And when we were coming back, we were so lost into conversation with each other that we forgot that we had to take a turn off. And we thought we had just walked a few minutes, not too long, but actually we had gone right up to the next mountain. And there we are searching, where do we go down, where do we go down? And so I asked him, what's the time? He said, it's 3:45. I said, oh, we have to get down there. 3:15 it was. I said, 3:30 the class is there, everyone will be waiting. And then someone suggested, let's go this way, another suggested, let's go that way. I also suggested something, not knowing where it is, but everyone is making a suggestion. And then, after some running around, we eventually found the path. Then when we were coming down, I was telling Binti, when we reached down all the way and we saw the water tank and the familiar surrounding. What was the familiar surrounding? My cabin, our meditation room, all these cabins. And suddenly, we are home. What a feeling of satisfaction is there, isn't it? And at that time, just I looked at her and she looked at her, I hugged her and I said, yes. That is the feeling, that is how we will feel when we get into our bed after a whole day's toil. Now I am resting. Even more so, it will be when we come to abide in the self. Because right now we are continuously defining ourselves, taking support of something or the other. But when we come to know ourselves as we are, it will be like coming home. Oh, okay, now there is no more. Now we feel most secure, most happy. We know where the toilet is, we know where the bathroom is, we know we don't have to cook for food. Because the thought up there was, the weather was changing, what will we do at night? No sleeping bag, no food, no soup, no curries. But when we come to a familiar surrounding, what is the most familiar to you? That which is permanent, isn't it? That which has never left you. See, I don't know, you all wear coats and jackets, I don't. Jackets sometimes, but you go to your cupboard, you open the cupboard, on a hanger there is a coat and a pant hanging. Isn't it? Do you start having a conversation with a coat and pant because it has got 2 arms and 2 legs and a place for a neck? No. You can't, you don't. If you go to a shopping center and you see a mannequin that is also wearing a suit or a very beautiful dress, and then you go and start having a conversation with the mannequin. Some foolish people are there who do that. But you start having conversation. Can you have a conversation? No. You need, but that coat and pant or that dress is not meant for itself. That coat and pant is meant for some being who wears it, isn't it? And then, if a police uniform's dress is there and someone enters into that dress, immediately everyone salutes. Yes sir, yes sir. Then, if there is a doctor's coat and someone enters into that coat, a living person or any person, forget about he's a doctor or not there, if he's wearing a coat, immediately other people, oh, I think a doctor is going, no, excuse me sir, I've got this problem. Police dress, it's not necessary for a policeman to wear. If anyone else, some actor is wearing, if he's walking around, you'll be careful. The thief will be careful. Police is around. I have to be careful, isn't it? Because that dress carries that power with it. But why? Because inside that dress there is some person. But if just the dress was there, no value to it, isn't it? It's worthy of discarding. Similarly, the dress, what is our dress? Not just this colored thing that we are wearing. The dress is the body, breath, mind, intellect. These are the 4 layers of clothes that we have, that are there. Everyone has that. And that dress, when it is not invigorated by life, it's worthy of discarding. Who wants to keep a dead body in the house? Do you want to? Even if it is an ant, if it is a spider, if it is a mosquito, if it is a relative, immediately you want to, it starts stinking after some time, isn't it? You want to get rid of it. But if there is a life principle functioning through that cloak of the 4 sheaths, Then you can have a meaningful conversation, then you can have a relationship, then you can have, you can hold hands, you can, oh, dead body for some moments, but for some time the dead body starts stinking, the wife or the husband is saying, get rid of this quickly, I don't want it anywhere close, isn't it? So what is that principle? Recognize that principle you are. All this is just changing. From this life, if you take it from a relative level, in this life you are wearing one cloak, next life again another cloak will come. If we have not directly come to apprehend the truth in this lifetime. And this will go on. But you have not changed. Because of your identification, an actor, he wears one moment he is wearing a doctor's clothes, then he is wearing a business suit, then he is wearing a policeman's uniform. He is not identified with any of those clothes, but when he is wearing them, he acts perfectly. Knowing fully well that he is someone other than the role that he is playing. Correct? Same thing we have to do in our life. Play the role to the what do you call? To full hilt. Huh?
To the hilt.
To the hilt, not the full hilt, to the hilt. To the hilt. And don't get attached to it. When the next role comes, again live that. Then live that. When you start living every moment 110%, automatically you start separating from that which is happening, that you are expressing. You become the witness of that is taking place. But when you are continuously thinking about the past and pulling it into the present and wanting that I hope this, sometimes in past few retreats people have made comments that I wish that this continues for another 1 week or another 1 month. Oh, we could live like this. Yes, we can. But that thought itself becomes an impediment. It becomes a problem. Feeling is good. But if we are remaining in that thought and forgetting that right now we are talking about the self, where our attention should be, suddenly what has happened? We are not in the present moment. We are not in the here and now. We have lost the plot. The only thing we have to do is continuously, by hook, by crook, by this way or that, bring your attention again and again, again and again, again and again to the conscious principle. Just like that actor knows himself in spite of taking different roles in the drama. If he identifies with one role, he will not be able to play the next role properly. I gave this example, it came in Panchadashi or in the last retreat I gave this example. The actor is acting like a king, but that king becomes a beggar, but he has not forgotten that he was a king. And he starts saying, give me donation. I'm begging, give me food. If he demands like that, he will get, people will throw stones at him. Or if he was a beggar and then he becomes a king in the next role. And still the habit of begging hasn't gone. And he's sitting on the throne, wearing all the gold, but still the hand is out. Please give me something. Funny, no? The Lord inside or up there, wherever he is, everywhere, he is also laughing at us like that only. We have got everything. We are everything. As everything. Nothing is lacking in us. And yet we are begging for happiness from this world. We are begging for completion from this world. This is our misery. And inside he is laughing. Here he goes again. Here he goes again. Here he goes again. Continuously we are selling ourselves short by seeking the happiness from something that cannot give us happiness and not recognizing that happiness is our own true nature. When we have recognized this, then whatever role we find ourselves in, we will do it to 100%. Then there will be no confusion. Because there is no load that we are carrying from the past. There is no expectation about the future. So what is happening? We are right now, here and now, living, experiencing, doing whatever, 100%. This is how a master lives. Now another question comes. The question is that you were talking about that you are existing. Huh? You are all existing right now? Yes. But when some body which is living dies, we say the existence consciousness has left that body, isn't it? But we see that the dead body is also existing. Now be very careful. So, the true reality, the conscious principle is existence, consciousness, bliss that has left the physical body. That is why it is called dead. But the dead body is also existent because I see it exists. So, are there two existences? Very subtle point. In Panchadashi we have covered this. So are there two existences? Then how will you tell?
I would say that the dead body business I'm looking at has died of some fault or whatever, and the existence, bliss or whatever you call it, is still everywhere anyway.
Okay.
So
But the fact is that something has left the body, therefore it is not alive.
It hasn't left the body, or has the body just stopped mechanically working?
Whichever way you put, it was alive before, now it is not. So are there two existences? This is the doubt of the student. Now this doubt, I don't know if any one of you has ever thought about it, because this thought comes. Yesterday in some lecture I just mentioned it, that when we die, the world continues to be, isn't it? So was the world before me and the world after me after I die? Which means I am a product of this world, not the world is product of me. This is the conclusion that we come to. Now same example just here. Is there existence after? Because I see a dead body there, and the dead body is. Isness is that existence. And something has left that dead body also. Now this is explained. This is to remove all the cobwebs of the mind. Little bit, if you can catch it, otherwise suffer. That's all I can say. Okay, let's take an example. See, if I put the lights off, will you be able to see my face? Why? Because the sunlight is there. Okay, good. Now I put the lights on. What happens to my face?
It blooms.
It becomes more, it shines because that extra light has come, isn't it? So what does it mean from what I just said? That there was one natural sunlight because of which the face was able to be cognized, and on that natural light another specific light also fell, because of which even more shining the face became, isn't it? So how many lights are there? Two different lights, isn't it? So now there is sunlight here, and if I take a magnifying glass, and if the sun was out and I take that, so because of the natural sunlight which is equal everywhere, the light is the wall is able to be seen. Now on that wall I put that magnifying glass, and then a beam of sunlight falls on that wall. So there you will see only a particular part on that wall, you will see more lighted up. because of that beam of light. But the rest of the wall, you will see the other sunlight, isn't it? Two lights, same thing. If this example is clear, exactly that thing is happening. The reality is everywhere in general. What is reality? Existence, consciousness and bliss. But certain places it is expressing specifically. Because there is a surface to shine upon. And what is that surface? The intellect. There it reflects. And there it is called reflected consciousness. That gives rise to being. So it seems so what has left is not the general light. What has left is not the absolute reality. What has left is not the general absolute existence, but what has left is that specific existence. I can switch that light off and the light from my face will go away, but you will still be able to see my way. So the Lord has switched the light off. The person dies, but he is still existing for some time, isn't it?
But is it the reflected light that you're talking about?
Yes, the reflected light comes and goes, but the general light remains, isn't it?
Yeah.
General light comes of its own accord and it remains. Okay, if you take the cycle, we are not going into the daylight is for so long and night it is not there. We are not going to that. Just the example. Same thing is with us also. So there is a general existence and there is specific existence. General existence, we see everything, consciousness and inert matter continuously existing. But where there is consciousness married to matter, there life starts expressing. And that life has a particular span. And in that life is the specific expression of that reality. It is within the reality, just like that light which is reflected on the wall when we take the magnifying glass is the same sunlight which has been channeled and made into a specific luminous spot on the wall, isn't it? And why did that spot come? Because there is a medium in between, isn't it? Called the magnifying glass. Exactly the same way. That same reality which is general, infinite in its nature, in it a magnifying glass has come. What is that called? Body, breath, mind, intellect. But in the body, the reality cannot reflect itself. In the breath, the reality cannot reflect itself. In the mind, the reality cannot reflect itself. In the intellect, it can, because it's the subtlest of our personality. There it reflects. And there, a specific light is created. And that light is the Atman, the conscious principle within. Now that light gets identified with this body, breath, mind and starts saying, I am the ego. Actually, it is nothing but that same general light, isn't it? Recognition of this is a realization. And once that light has recognized, it is not other than the general light, but expressing as a specific, having a specific expression only due to the medium in between, then it will not be attached to the medium. Got it? Clear?
Nobody's willing to say
No,
it.
it's not
Okay.
That is graspable by the mind.
No, this is, it is graspable. Now this has to be recognized. I gave you one example. Now this has to be recognized as within you, as you. That light is what I really am. Now do that effort. Till when? Till everything drops one by one. Till you are not aware of anything in this world. Till you are not attached to anything in this world. Till a point where nothing but that reality remains. See, just like a woman is a girl, unmarried, she's happy, free, running around here and there, meeting her friends. After marriage, husband, then children, and then slowly what happens? The whole life is only about the husband and children. Mostly preoccupied with that only, nothing else. You are with your photography, only occupied with photography. Example. When the mind is fully occupied with its own nature, without any effort, that has to happen.
What's the point of the brain? What does the brain actually...
Brain is nothing, it's the filament. Without filament in the bulb, electricity cannot express as light. So, the brain is the gross filament. If the brain is not there, mind and intellect cannot function.
Yeah, it's a transformer, so...
Something like that, yeah. So, here it says, often the master repeats at the end of the discourse what was discussed was only the conditioned. Remove the conditioning and realize the self. And here, see, the mind continues to, once I gave you this example some time ago when I was doing the course. I asked the teacher that, Swamiji, I think what you have said is, he told me to do something. And when he told me to do something, I went and I came back. I said, Swamiji, I don't think what you have said is correct. You should do it this way. And at that moment, he stopped talking to me for 4 months. And continuously I was trying to find ways to begin a dialogue with him. But he will never speak to me directly. Yesterday when we were up in the mountain, everyone was making suggestions. Only one person had faith. Swami, I'll just follow Swamiji. Because I know where it was going to be. I'm just making this example. Swami means what? You know what Swami means?
God.
Huh?
Control of himself.
God?
Lord.
Lord. Okay, that's one explanation. Guru, teacher. No.
Self-mastery. Mastery, self-control.
Swami means I am. Swami Paramanand, I am infinite bliss. So he who has no doubt about his identity is Swami. And what is the identity? Now the teacher has told me. He has put this name. What is that name? Paramanand. So your identity is your infinite bliss. Now discover. And his teacher gave to him in Anubhavanand. I am Anubhavanand. I am the experience, the bliss of experience. Now discover. Tejomayanand. I am the bliss of what do you call? Illumination or bright intellect. Then Swarupanand. I am the bliss of my essential nature. Narayananand. I am the bliss of Lord Narayan. One master is there in India, still living. His name is Adgadanand. Adgad in Hindi, Adgad means who is not going flabby, he continuously moves this way, that way. So his teacher has given his name Adgadanand. He is the bliss of Huh? No, but he said why just His name is Adgadananda. I don't know what is the story behind, but his name is Adgada. And he has written commentary on Bhagavad Gita and everything. Swami Adgadananda. So, maybe someone says, oh, you are Swami Stupidananda. Swami Nishchalanand. I am the bliss of purity. Nishchala. Chala means that which is moving. Nishchala means that which is unmoving. So bliss of unmovingness, the bliss of silence. So this way, in this parampara, in this lineage, all the teachers, when they see a disciple is ready and he needs that one little bit extra to take that final jump, then this name is given so that that becomes, you get identified with that name. Because what is this Paramananda? Paramananda is infinite bliss. I can never be identified. I cannot conceptualize Paramananda. I cannot conceptualize Adgad. I cannot conceptualize Anubhavananda. Bliss of experience cannot be conceptualized. It can only be lived as that, isn't it? In every moment. And that's why these names are given. So that again and again you are reminding yourself. And if you don't want to remember yourself, then the world is Swami. Am I Swami now? And the world keeps reminding you, Swami Paramanand, Swami Paramanand, Swami Paramanand. Then somewhere it will click someday. Man, everyone is calling me Swami Paramanand and I am living a Blisteranand, life of Blisteranand. Something is going wrong somewhere. I have to change this. I have to live up to my name. Isn't it? If you are given doctor of so and so and you are behaving as a patient, something is going wrong somewhere. And this is the technique of initiation, where the teacher gives you the name and you start. And the name is not given just because someone wants it. The teacher sees that this fellow has come to this point where he just needs a little bit of push. The walking he has to do, but the push is required. And that is, for that reason, the mantra is given by teachers. By that reason, the initiation is given by teachers. In different paths, there are different types of initiations for that purpose. So that the help can be taken at many different points in life. So when you are just a beginning, you go to a satsang. Satsang is also a help. Because you are made to think about that which you are not thinking all the time. For a Vedanti, one big problem is there. Now he can't live in the world because he knows the world is not real. So he can't run after the world also. And he can't come to the self because he's still searching for the self. So he's hanging in between. Neither in the world nor in the self. He's the most miserable. Who? The spiritual seeker. So quickly see, a person who's ignorant about something called divine, who's ignorant about reality, who's ignorant about the spirit, he's happy. Ignorance is bliss, isn't it? But what is our situation? We know it, but we have not reached it. So we are neither blissful because of ignorance and neither blissful because of direct experience. We are in the middle like a ghost.
That's what the Christians call the dark night of the soul. Is it? Christians, the dark night of the soul.
What does that mean?
That being that situation of neither one or the other.
Is it? I don't know the whole story.
I think that must be one.
You can put it that way. Is it that way? That is the dark night of the soul? Okay. Being in a grey area.
Where you're desperately yearning to get the Lord's embrace sort of thing, and you feel as if you're locked out, and it's very, very
You can't get there.
depressing.
But I feel I personally feel dark night of the soul is that yearning and all is going on. But a point comes where you cannot put any more efforts. Every thought, every idea, every mechanism that you can employ, you have employed, and the Lord has not given you His darshan. And now the mind is empty. And you are waiting. That is the dark night of the soul, I feel. Because as long as you are doing something, the ego is there. Now the ego has come to this conclusion that there is nothing more to be done. It is only by grace that the Lord will reveal Himself. See? In meditation this thing happens. You are standing, you are looking at suppose you have taken the form of the Lord and you are looking at Him, suddenly He will vanish. Lot of people whom I have come across, they have had the darshan of the Lord with 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes and 1,000 legs, and it's a depiction which reveals itself at a particular stage in your sadhana if you have been doing japa for a long time. And then it comes, it lasts for a few minutes and then it vanishes, never to come again. Never to come again. And now this fellow is frustrated. I want that vision again because it was so peaceful, it was so liberating. I saw the Lord and the beautiful smile and the beautiful eyes. Now where has He gone? Majority of the people after that, if the guidance is not there, they lose the plot. But if a little bit guidance is there, you keep where that emptiness is, from where He vanished in front of your eyes. If you close your eyes now, I don't know, I can see there is nothing in the mind. I'm speaking so much, but there is nothing in the mind right now. You keep observing the empty mind. At one spot, from where He left. See, a lot of people, in Yoga Sutra this exercise comes. The point that you have to observe is this point, outside, if you want to observe. Sit in front of a wall, you keep looking at that point there. When you close your eyes, again, keep looking at this point here. And after some time, you see what happens. This is just a physical exercise, but it will give you the result, because it's a process to take you beyond. All that it is doing is making your mind single pointed. Now with faith, devotion, with commitment, you keep looking at that point without imagining, without conceptualizing, without waiting for something to take place, but having faith that the Lord will reveal. And you know which Lord reveals there? Not the same one which you saw on the cross, not the one you saw in the temple, not the empty wall of the mosque. Self reveals. When in that empty space of the mind, you are waiting without any projection, without going to sleep, you are waiting. And it doesn't take too long, but for that you have to spend daily time in meditation. Doing the process that we are doing, you bring your mind to a rest and then allow the mind to be empty. Don't initiate anything in that mind. Every day, so you are doing half an hour of all this only to get maybe few seconds of that silence, where there is nothing at all appearing in your mind and you are not initiating anything. Then next day you again do it again and again and again, and slowly maybe it will last for a minute, maybe it last for 2 minutes. If it has lasted for a minute or 2 minutes, oh man, you are one of your kind in this whole creation. You are the most unique person if it has happened for a minute. Everything else is only a preparation to get to that point. Like we prepare, for marriage. We go shopping, we buy the ornaments, we buy the clothes. And how much time does it take for marriage? You just went for your sister's marriage. How much time it took? She said 3 days. No, it did not take 3 days was the preparation. Marriage was just 1 minute. They put the garland and this put that was the time the marriage took place, isn't it? And then what? It's all over. Now you are husband and wife. Till you don't say I do, marriage has not taken place. Everything was just leading up to it, isn't it? And from one moment to the next moment, that free, liberated woman becomes a bound wife. Similarly, from one moment to the next, that wife, that mind is the wife. That wife, now don't think of yourself as wife, I'm talking about mind as the wife. That mind wants a divorce. Divorce from whom? Divorce from the intellect, the husband. Or you can take the mind and intellect together and it wants divorce. And it wants to recognize its own freedom. It wants divorce from all the things that it has imagined itself to be. That I am the body, breath, relationship, father, mother, daughter. Enough. Okay. Then it will recognize. So this infinite reality that is there within this these sheaths and expressing through these sheaths, but not identified with these sheaths. Whether these sheaths or these clothes are there or not there, nothing happens to the reality principle. Reality principle is independent of the clothes that it is wearing. Because of it, the clothes seem enlivened. But if the clothes are not there, nothing happens to the reality principle. It continues to be as it is. Recognize this. Then, when we reach this through I am not the body, I am not the breath, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, and we come to a point where we were just talking about the dark night of the soul. What happens there? At that point where every concept has been removed, you are not identified to anything. What happens? There is no I, there is no you, there is no mine, there is no yours. Everything, all these things. This is the biggest problem where the ego starts expressing. The moment you and mine comes, the ego becomes strong. So if you say, Swamiji, oh, you are practicing that you are not you, that you are not, nothing is yours, okay, then I take the camera. Because you are a photographer. Immediately the mind will come, hey, this is my camera, don't touch it. Isn't it? I may practice giving away other things. But, oh, this is just now I have got it. Immediately the mind comes. It is my camera. This is my body. If someone tries to come and kill it, my body, I am afraid, don't do it. I have to protect it. But when this idea of mine, my and minus goes away, there is total fearlessness. Whatever may happen. That preparation for that, I gave you the example of Udiya Baba. Have you heard of Udiya Baba? He was Swami Akhandanand Maharaj's teacher in Vrindavan. There is a Akhandanand ashram there, not far from ISKCON. And Udiya Baba was like Ramakrishna Paramahansa. He had practiced all the various paths. And he had realized the truth through Kriya Yoga, through Hatha Yoga, through Bhakti Yoga, through Jnana Yoga. through Samadhi Abhyas, all the different paths he had practiced and come to realize, arey, it's the same. And such a master, he was a Vedanti. And he came to Vrindavan. Where is Vrindavan? There is no Vedanta in Vrindavan, only devotion. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Nobody will say Hari Om. If you say Hari Om, they'll say Radhe, Radhe. They feel insulted. How come you are saying Hari Om? You have to say Radhe, Radhe. Jai Shri Krishna. Krishna is the Lord, the infinite principle. What Hari Om you are talking about? They look down upon you there if you say Hari Om. You have to say Radhe Radhe or Jai Shri Krishna. It's like when you go to a church and you say Allahu Akbar. What will happen? They'll chase you out. That was the situation of Udiya Baba in Vrindavan when he came. But a master who has known everything, he understood. And he started and some people came and the devotees came, then the ashram was built. And one day he was sitting there in meditation and giving a lecture. And naturally some people come. Someone came to press his leg, another came to press his throat, someone else came to press his arms. And one day one of the sevaks, he came and he had gone to the loo. And when he came back, he found the leg that he was pressing was taken over by another sevak. Sevak, you understand? Another, literal meaning is the one who is serving, the servant. But he is a devotee. So he felt very angry. My leg, someone has taken. I just went for 2 minutes to go to the loo and this fellow has taken my leg. And at that moment, you know, like when anger comes, it comes without any, what is the word? Without any warning. It just comes. And he says, for so many years I've been serving, my mind was calm, the anger is coming, and this anger is coming because of this teacher. If he had no leg, then this anger would not have come. The whole root of the problem is this teacher. And in that anger he went and he picked up an axe and cut open his head from behind. Straight, he was giving lectures and he knows. That teacher also see the greatness. He knows how he is going to die. But he did not try to manipulate, he did not try to change the situation so that he could live longer. Because this body has to go somewhere or the other, isn't it? And when he took and he broke open the leg, the last word that came out of his mouth was Ram, and he left. I have given you example of my grandfather also. Last moment, he is sitting there, lying down, and everyone is coming to his room and they say, Anna, how are you? Anna, how are you? Everything is fine. He had a stroke. It looks as if he's gone mad. He's looking like this. Not even blinking his eyes. And then I go and I say, Hari Om Anna, Hari Om, and then again goes blank. So after few times I said, Hari Om, Anna, khana kha liya? That you eaten food? Anna, Anna, and I'll scream in his ears, but no response. But the moment I said Hari Om, and he will say Hari Om. I said, and everyone was complaining, whoever was coming to meet him, they say he's not communicating. I said, no, he communicates, but you have to speak what he wants to communicate to. You take any Lord's name, he will communicate to you. If you talk anything else other than the Lord, he does not want to communicate. So now all these senior citizens, they used to come. My grandfather was 86. So they came and they used to start Om Sahana Bhavatu, and he will start chanting Sahana Bhavatu. And they will chant Om Gadanam Tva. He will start chanting Gadanam Tva. And they will say Om Saraswati Namastubhyam. Any shloka, whatever he knows, he will start chanting with you, if he knows that one. So they said, he's communicating, and then they said, Anna, but you know who this is? I brought Dr. Datar with me. You are keeping well? See? He knew. Then one day, I was just, like a fresh brahmachari. When you are fresh into anything, you are over enthusiastic. So I was over enthusiastic. I must teach my grandfather, otherwise he'll lose the plot. I think he's going cuckoo or something. This was all my idea. So I fed him and everything, and I sat next to him, and in his right ear, in 20 minutes, I gave the whole essence of Vedanta. 20 minutes. And I thought, I have done a good service. And this old man turns around, holds my hand with great love in his eyes. Great love in his eyes, looks into my eyes, and he says, that's what I am doing. See? You have to experience this to know. It sounds funny and all that, but when you are there, and when I think back about it, he is totally with himself. Totally. He was clinically declared dead because he was not breathing. After 2 hours, 1 hour, I chanted Bhagavad Gita, and after chanting Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, I poured some Ganga water into his mouth. He was dead. But I see his throat moving, swallowing the water. And after swallowing the water, the last breath, and then he died. But clinically, according to the nurse, he's gone. But when you experience this, there is one gentleman, now he's passed away in Melbourne. He used to chant Ram, 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 Ram. And if you call, I can't remember his name now. Oh, have you eaten? Ram has eaten. And everything will be Ram. Now Ram is doing this, now Ram wants to do that, now Ram is this, now Ram is that. And then after some time that Ram is doing this, that also Ram, 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 Ram. If he wants to say no, Ram, 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 Ram. Ram, Ram, Ram. And this way he used to communicate. And at the time of death, what was the last thought? Died with Ram, and last breath went away. Just 3 weeks ago I told this to these people. 2-3 weeks ago I went, one person died, he was 91 he was, pharmacist's father. And they called me, they said, Swamiji, we want to have some lectures, dad has passed away, can you come? So I cancelled all my classes and I went because I had known them for many years. So every evening except Wednesday I went there. And after the talk, first day I gave the lecture. People usually they go to, you go, you express sorrow and you cry a little. And I gave lecture and everyone was laughing like anything. They had just come back from cremation. And 1 hour later I reached there and I started the lecture. And they are laughing away like they have never laughed like before. And then after the lecture was over, I went to his wife. She is also now 89 or something. So I sat in front of her, I held her hand and I said, Amma, everything is the divine? She says, yes. She says, yeah, little bit pain is there because after 75 years of living with this man, or 70 years, she was married when she was 12. So after 72 years of marriage, there is a sense of loss, but I know it is only temporary loss. She's telling me in Hindi, it's only temporary. Then what is happening, Amma? Remember the Lord. She says, yeah, people are telling me it's the Lord's will and remember the Lord, but my problem is how do I remember the Lord? I'm feeling it now, just recollecting what she said. She says, how do I remember God? And I just kept quiet. I didn't know where the conversation was going. Was she going to break down or cry or what? I don't know. And then she said, I don't know how to remember God. And I just kept smiling and looking at her. And she says, God is inside me, outside me. The God is expressing as me. Then how do I remember God? Tell me. If you know some technique, then I will practice that. See? That person is living as God at that moment. That statement from that person's mouth cannot be an ignorant person's statement. She says, the God is inside me, outside me, with every breath, as the thoughts. Now tell me, how do I remember God? My problem is this. And then she just looked and she caught my head like this and she looked into my eyes, 87-year-old lady, and she's looking into my eyes. I am crying out of joy, she's crying out of joy. I've forgotten her husband completely. This is where we have to get. This is what we have to recognize, like that lady. Just remembering it itself is, just that there are people like that who, here, in this materialistic society, in $1 million mansion, we have our ideas that, you have to be poor to be realized. But it cannot be a statement of an ignorant person, what she said. So recognize this. We have to come to that point where I don't know how to think about the self. Huh? Because I am the self. But you cannot say that also, because if you say it, the ego has come in between. And you cannot not say it also because you are already. This is the dilemma which we have to clear ourselves out. So therefore, meditate. Meditate, meditate. Only in meditation this will happen. How does it happen? In our scriptures, some other, I can't, which Upanishad, I don't know. There an example is given. A salt doll wanted to work out what was the depth of the ocean. So, just like a wave wanted to know that it was water, we want to know that we are that infinite principle. At the moment we are finite, wanting to know our infinitude. Similarly, that salt doll wanted to know the depth of the ocean. So it took a jump. What happened?
Gone.
Huh? For some moments it was there. Then what happened? It became the ocean, isn't it? It lost its identity. It lost its contours. It lost itself, only to be called now as ocean, isn't it? Same thing. When this ego, when this limited mind starts thinking about that infinite principle, and we have covered that topic, the ear of the ear, the eye of the eye, the mind of the mind. When it starts contemplating on it, knowing fully well that it is an impossibility to contemplate upon it. So it uses the words, it uses some tools by which its attention gets directed towards it. Om is another tool. In the process, what happens? All you have to do is be steadfast on the process. In that process itself, somewhere along the way, the individuality melts and only the infinite remains. In that process of a devotee contemplating on the smile of the Lord, the devotee vanishes. Only the Lord remains. Only in that contemplation of the beloved, the union comes about. This has to happen. And when it happens, what happens then? Then such a person does not say that I have to become one with Brahman, I have to realize Brahman. Such a person is Brahman. The one who knows Brahman becomes Brahman, it is said. Now here the known is not in the terms that we were talking before, that you have to go beyond the known and the unknown. Here the person who knows Brahman becomes Brahman. The person who knows, surrenders himself to the infinite becomes the infinite. And that is our goal, and that can happen only through meditation. Meditate, meditate, meditate. Don't expect anyone else to give you instant realization in life. If in Hobart I went, one person comes from Brisbane, he charges $600 and the casino is full with about 800-900 people. $600 per person, and he guarantees instant realization.
Oh, I wish I could get rich like that.
Think. Huh?
It's cheap to get realization with $600.
We are giving it to you free. So one person who comes to the talks there, Uppi, you stay with Uppi, no? Uppi went. Uppi paid $600 long time ago. And then when I started going to Hobart, he was a lot into drinks and this and enjoying life. Slowly he's changed dramatically now. And he comes and he says, Swamiji, I still got all the notes. For last 2 years I am comparing what you are saying and what he said. But it's the same. And I paid $600 there, or 800, whatever it was. And you don't charge anything? I think we should start, Swamiji, then more people will come. He gets 800 people there every time. No, this knowledge is not for business. This knowledge is only for sharing, without any expectation in return. If you have because what we are doing here, sharing without any expectation back in return, same is the relationship between the self. You seek the self without any expectation in return. That the return will be in this way, that I know one person, he contemplates, every day he contemplates. Till 2 o'clock in the morning he contemplates. But every day he's a salesperson. All that contemplation goes into, today I have to get 10 sales. All that energy and single pointed mind that he develops as a result of contemplation, during the day it goes, God, if I don't do the sale, then I will not reach my goal. If I don't reach the goal, the club will not reach the goal. If the club will not reach the goal, then I will not have a job. If I don't have a job, then he starts thinking about, no, but I trust you, you are taking care of everyone. And every day he reaches his sales target. For last 15 months, every day he reaches his sales target. But what is happening? He has utilized that ability, that divine, for achieving something in this material world. If that same energy, that same contemplation, that same faith he had shown in the divine, that Lord, come what may, you reveal yourself to me, the Lord would have done that also. Right now the Lord is only getting him 9 and 10 sales every day, because he prays to him every day.
Lord is working.
He's making the Lord work. Realization or contemplation on the reality is not for making the Lord work. The Lord is not outside. The Lord is inside, within us as the self. Have no expectation of him, because if you have an expectation from a realization, then it will not express in its entirety, and it does not know how to express as limited also. So you are hanging in between again. You have to abandon everything. You have to lose yourself, just like that salt doll lost itself in the contemplation of the ocean. When I say, just now, few minutes ago, I gave you example that you, in that empty space of the mind, you just keep that point and just be there. Having no expectation, it will happen. It's like a immense, this morning you heard when we are sitting in meditation, or those who were with me, we went up on the hill, suddenly a huge roar could be heard far away. And that roar will come slowly, slowly closer to us, and suddenly a gust of wind will come, isn't it? I think you reminded, see, Swamiji, the sound. Then again there will be calm, and again there will be the roar of wind. Yesterday, after that, this morning also, when I was, from far away you can hear the rumbling sound, and that rumble is getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and suddenly you know, okay, I'm going to get caught up, get inside the room. It's the same. When we remain available to this reality, that infinite rumble starts, because now it is free to express itself without any conditionings. And when that rumble comes up, 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 and what does it come out as? The student, the seeker, in that height of a realization, all he can say is, I am that, I am that, I am that. The teacher has been saying, you are that, you are that, you are that. The student comes to recognize, I am that, I am that, I am that. But this, I am that, we have said, if you say I am that, you are not that. We have said that. But he knows that. Now that dialogue will be taken up in the future verses. The teacher tests the student. Does he really know what he has, that he has? He's saying, I am that. Is it so? So what he does, let's see. What's the time? We'll go into this next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. You sit quietly for a few minutes.